we build the business first, everybody in the business to work in the business so that we don't have to work, but it runs itself. We give them the systems, procedures. That's building a business. So we have the business owning the inventory, running itself.
Welcome to the Conscious Investor. Let's get started. Conscious Investor, so happy to have you back here at the Conscious Investor podcast. I appreciate you. You know what? I've been recording podcasts today, and I normally don't tell you this, but this is very unique. I've been recording podcasts for 4 hours today, and my guest has also been recording podcasts for 4 hours, and yet we're showing up and we're both supercharged and excited. And you know what's driving that? It's you. We really care about you. And we're so excited to create content that is just going to help catapult your life into the direction that you are looking for. You're looking for solutions, and you're looking for that next step, and you're looking for that bit of hope. Let's face it, we all want some hope, and sometimes we're discouraged. And so we just want to supercharge you today in this episode. And I have a friend of mine who I've met recently and just came by way of an introduction. So whoever you meet in life, you never know who you're going to meet because you've met that person. So always be open to meeting new people. And shout out to my friend Lindsay for introducing us. She has an amazing podcast, and we'll drop a link to her show down in the show notes because I just want to thank her. And that is also on passive income investing. So her podcast is The Passive Income Examiner. So go check out her show because she's awesome, and you're going to find some inspiration there. And then because of Lindsay, I was able to meet Dustin, and I'm so excited. Dustin, you are awesome. We've had so many conversations. We've recorded on one of your 3 podcasts, and it's just been such a delight getting to know you. So many shout outs. But I'm going to stop, and I'm going to say, Dustin, again, so happy to have you here on the Conscious Investor.
Thank you, Julie. I'm definitely very, very excited and blessed to be on the show. But yeah, thank you so much for having me on. I definitely love being an investor, and not necessarily like real estate's fantastic. Don't get me wrong, but it's what it affords me to do in my life. I can literally hang out with my family. In fact, I have the easy job of making money. My wife has a hard job of homeschooling our kids. We have 4 kids. And so I get to hang out with them as much as I can. I go to the gym, I come on podcasts and talk to great people like you and get to meet other great people. So it's what it affords me in my life, freedom. So real estate investing is all about freedom for me. And I appreciate having me on the show. So I'm super pumped to share as much as I can, drop as much value as I can to help people really achieve what they want in their life.
Oh my gosh. So I'm excited. We're going to dive into that. And you know what, Conscious Investor, I'm letting you know at the end, we're going to drop all the bombs as to like his amazing podcasts. I'm not even going to say them now because I'm so excited about them. And you're going to want to just like ditch this podcast recording and go there because they're so much fun to listen to. But you know what? I want to dive in because I am a listener of your podcasts, a very happy, content ambassador of your podcast, in fact.
You.
And so, I want to dive into your story first and foremost, because, my audience, you're new to them more than likely. And so tell us why did you decide to start investing?
Yeah, totally. So yeah, I'm definitely an investor. That's what I am. And I'll quickly jump to the end, but I'll go right back to the beginning. So when I was 37 years old, I was blessed to be able to quit my job because I had enough rental properties that made me a minimum of $250 a month in passive income. That's where I didn't work and I still made money, but I had enough properties. I had 30 plus properties. And I realized, my goodness, why am I still working here? I'm making $75,000 a year here, but I'm losing money working here because I can make so much more money on my own. So I'll go back to the beginning. So in my life, I've always been entrepreneurial, the idea of starting businesses and that idea, but I've also been taught the exact same thing that we are all taught. We're all taught the same exact thing. You go to school, you get good grades. Then you take those good grades, you go to college, you get in thousands and thousands of dollars into debt, you get those good grades again, you get a piece of paper, it's called a degree, and you go around to other businesses and you try to get a quote unquote career. So I'm following the same thing in the career. Eventually, you work there 40 plus years and then try to retire when you're 65, 70 years and live on what you managed to save all that time, working that I like to call a just over broke job. It's a job. You're living just over broke. And with that, I'm doing the exact same thing, but I'm always also been entrepreneurial. So I had a newspaper route. That's where you ride on bikes with newspapers and throw them at 5 a.m. and bang them on garage doors, waking people up. I had a graphic website design company. I had a skateboard manufacturing business. I even had a convenience store and a pizzeria. Started all these from scratch because I wanted to quit my job or I wanted to be self-employed, but at the same time, still following exact same path, that 9 to 5. So I got a job, and this is a story. This is what literally catapulted me into becoming a real estate investor. So I had been working a job. I got a job, the most stable, secure job you could ever get. It was in California. California's not going away. Working for the local county government, that's not going away. And doing technology for the local county government in California, those are not going away. So the most secure, stable job, working 9 to 5, working there, great. And so with these businesses, I also bought one rental property. And with that one rental property, I remember getting that first check from my property manager. It was like $317 or $320 or something like that. And I was like, oh my goodness, I didn't do anything. They did all the work and I made this money in passive income. I need more properties. But you know how it happens, Julie, life got in the way. So here's the story. So I stopped investing because just life got in the way. My wife and I started having child after child after child. Eventually we had 4 children. And when my wife had our 4th child, I went on paternity leave. That's where the dad stays home with the mom, changes poopy diapers and bonds with the baby and all that good stuff. And I go back to work after I go on paternity leave. That week, I get back to work on a Friday at 3:30 in the afternoon. I get a call from my boss's secretary, like the top dog. She calls me and says, Dustin, would you please come to the office? And I said, sure. And I hung up the phone and I paused for a second. I thought, why in the world would they be calling me to the office? Like, this isn't normal. And it's 3:30 in the afternoon on a Friday. I've seen plenty of movies. Like, this is not good. So I also remembered a couple months before I went to paternity leave, there was some rumors or some rumblings going on that there could potentially be layoffs in the county. And I realized, I said, no way. There's no way for me because I have so much seniority. I've been here 12 years or so. I have great seniority. And also my bosses think I do a great job. So I shook that off. I get up then and I walk down the hallway to my boss's office. And Julie, that hallway's, it's rather short, but every single step that I take, it feels like the hallway gets longer and longer and longer. It feels like my feet become lead bricks because every step that I take, it starts to weigh on me that I could potentially lose my job. Well, I get down the hallway and I turn the corner and I see my boss's door. His door is closed. And I look at the secretary there, super sweet, nice old lady. And she says, Dustin, would you please have a seat? And she's kind of sheepishly grinning at me, trying to console me with her eyes because she knows everything about what's going on. I know nothing about what's going on. So I go and I take my seat and I sit down there and I think about my life. If I get laid off right now, all that path that I've been told I should take, I start thinking, oh my goodness, did I just waste my life doing this? And then, oh, wow, my wife just had her 4th child. If I lose my job right now, how am I going to be able to feed them? Well, if I can't feed them, does that make me a failure as a father? Does that make me a failure as a husband, as a man trying to provide for his family? Well, as I'm sitting there, my hands get all clammy. My forehead gets all sweaty because the nerves and anxiousness is just crushing down on me. Well, the door to my boss's office opens up and out walks a lady, a coworker of mine, with a piece of paper in her hands. She is noticeably distraught, noticeably upset, not necessarily crying, but you could tell her world's been rocked. She passes by me and my boss says, Dustin, would you please come into the office? So I get up and I go into his office and I get laid off. And remember, this is the government. Nobody gets fired or laid off from the government, but I did. Well, I take that layoff notice and I go back to my desk and I sit down and I realize 2 things right then and there. This is the reason why I tell the story. I realized 2 things. Well, number one, I realized I need to get another job. I need to be able to provide for my family. So I was really, really blessed. Praise the Lord to be able to find another job in the same county, a different department, wasn't having the same issues. So I was really blessed. Check, got that. But the second thing that I realized was I need to make sure that this never, ever happens to me again. I need to make sure that nobody has the ability to take away my ability to feed my family. So right then and there, I realized that whenever anybody would ask me the question, Dustin, what do you do? And then everybody gets that question. What do you do? And I would just always reply, oh, I work for the county. I do technology for the county. And I'm basically, and everybody does this, we're projecting our value in ourselves as coming from our job. No, my value doesn't come from my job. My value comes from my God, from myself, and from my family. So right then and there, I realized no more am I going to say that. What I will say, because I knew I needed to be an investor, but life got in the way. I'm never going to let life get in the way now. So I'm going to tell everybody, I am an investor. I'm a full-time investor. Now, it may so happen that 100% of my money comes from my job. That's now my part-time job. I'm a full-time investor. Fast forward the story, I started buying property after property after property, each one making me $250 a month in passive income or more. That's the minimum. Some are making $500, $600, $700 a month in passive income. And then after 30 plus properties, I realized, my goodness, why am I working here? So the last part of the story, I went to my new boss, great boss and all. I said, hey, boss, I'm laying you off. Like, here's your 2 weeks notice, jokingly. And he goes, Dustin, what are you going to do? And I said, well, I don't have to do anything. I own real estate. It makes money for me without me working. And I will literally give these properties to my kids because it's generational wealth that I'm creating. And with that, the last part of the story is I walked away from my office, my work for the very last time. I've done this walk literally thousands of times, a 1.5 mile walk in downtown. I didn't want to pay for parking. I'm too frugal for that. And so I've taken this walk 1,000 times. But if you remember that story of that short hallway that got longer and longer and longer, and my feet became lead bricks. Well, this last walk that I took, I felt like I was walking on clouds because I knew I would never, ever need a job again because now I am getting paid for the value that I bring. So everybody listening, you need to hear this. You need to hear that your boss they cannot and will not pay you what you're worth. You're worth so much more than anybody could ever pay you. And you're going to know this easily. Your boss is paying you just enough to keep you working without quitting, but not so much money it takes money out of their pocket. So if you got paid what you're worth, they'd go broke. Now, what I've done is I've taken into my own hands. Now I am providing for my family and I have real estate that works for me without me even working. So I'll pause the story because you probably got plenty of questions there, Julie.
Gosh, no, I'm just like, I love it. It's fun because, I listen to your podcast. We've spoken several times and yet it's like, it's always finding, something new and exciting. And I can't agree with you more on this whole thing. I had a similar experience as a young teacher, at 25 of they're handing out pink slips. And fortunately, I didn't receive a pink slip, but that was my call to action to say, I can't be dependent upon somebody else for creating a job for me. I want to create my own job, my own ecosystem that I am in control of and that is like coming into me, Yeah, that's absolutely huge.
It's so I love a lot of sayings, like a couple of sayings I really like, but one big one is a smart man learns from his mistakes, but a wise man learns from other people's mistakes. So everybody listening, like you listening to this, you need to hear what Julie and I both went through. And hopefully you're not going to have to go through this because I heard this when I first started working. I first got a job and I heard the saying, it's not if you lose your job or get fired, it's when it will happen. I shook it off. I said, there's no way. I'm such a good employee because I got raises all the time and everything was fine. No, it will happen. Now, if you're proactive, and I always try to teach and I say this, like, I hate being reactive. Reactive, you have two options, bad and worse. I like being proactive because I have so many more options. And so everybody listening, you have to realize that it can and most likely will happen to you. We have just figured out ways to not have this affect us ever again. So now I will literally never work a job ever again. Very, very blessed to say that. Now I try to help as many people. That's why I go on podcasts, try to help as many people to realize it's absolutely possible.
And it is absolutely possible. And now, conscious investor, you're going to notice that this is a deviation even from my normal investing strategy, which is multifamily. I am all about investing in apartments, but I'm also wise enough to know that I have friends that are very successful in other ways, and that it's not the only way to invest. In fact, my husband is very interested in the smaller 1 to 4 unit space, which is, like, kudos to him if that's what he wants to pursue. I will never hold him back if that's where he feels compelled to go, and he doesn't hold me back. So I think it's super fun. It's just all real estate all the time around the Holly house, because we just love it so much. But you're absolutely right. Like, like just lost my train of thought for a second, but to go back real fast, everybody will lose a job at some point. And at some point, you're going to have a miserable boss that you're not going to want to be around. And so posturing yourself in a way that allows you to be in the driver's seat so that you can make that decision is critical. And you're going to show up to work in a completely different way, knowing that you've created and cultivated this other income stream. So with all of that, taking that, my thought full circle, Dustin, let's talk about your investment strategy. I will go back. You said, hey, I made $75,000 a year. And, the conscious investor is like, oh, wait, you weren't making 200, 250 a year. You were making 70. I make 75. You make 75. You got started on that. So let's go back to the Genesis moment. And how'd you create, get started?
Yeah. So I'm definitely much more risk tolerant. My wife is absolutely not risk tolerant at all. In fact, her dad was a teacher. Her mom was a stay-at-home mom. And so they're so risk adverse. Like, in fact, her dad is so risk adverse. He overcooks hamburgers because he doesn't want anybody to get sick. Like, they're like charred. It's not, anyways, I'm not going to keep going down that path talking about in-laws, but they're risk averse. But for me, I'm not. And so when we got married, I was taught to not go into debt, which is great, but I was not taught to save. My wife was taught to save. And so when we got married, it was like literally like 6 months later, I said, hey, honey, I want to invest in real estate. Can I take, she saved up $15,000 when we got married. Can I take that $15,000 that you saved and buy real estate and start investing with that? That's a whole nother story of lots of work to get her on board. But this is what happened for me. Oh, did you have a question?
Yeah, actually, let's pause there.
Yeah.
Let's pause there because a conscious investor experiences this. What you experienced is it's not unique to you and your lovely wife. Like, this is my husband and I are both pretty risk tolerant. So, Dustin, this is not abnormal. A lot of couples experience this where they are mismatched. It seems that way, but it's actually a big blessing in disguise where one has their risk tolerance is different. So how did you and your wife work through that? Because the conscious investor is listening right now and saying,
yeah, with my wife, I was always telling her the why. This is why we're going to do it. She's much smarter than me. And you're 100% right. I'm so glad I have such a smart wife. I'm not that smart. In fact, probably all your investors and listening to this are much smarter than me. I'm blessed to have a very smart wife. And so she was like, I get it. You want to quit your job. I get it. Stop telling me the why. Tell me the how. So I was like, that's what you want. Okay. And I do, pausing that, I've had friends that they were telling the how. Like my buddy, he was telling his wife the how. But she was like, well, why do you want to do it? She didn't think it was. So you have to figure out, for us, it was both the how. For him, it was the why. So you have to figure out what's the disconnect is. For us, she wanted to know how we're not going to lose money. Number one, that's her money that she saved up. How are we not going to lose money? How are we going to manage the properties? How are we going to make money? And so what I had to do is I literally had to paint the picture for her of this first property that we're going to buy. I flew over there, which I'll pause and say, I don't fly anywhere. I invest all over the country. On my students, and we invest all over the country. I don't fly anywhere anymore. It's a waste of time. We can do everything remotely, which is so good. Even I own 30 plus properties now. I've only seen one of them before I bought it. It's like, I don't even look at them. I don't even care to go to the city, if not the state, to go to, but it's inventory, which we can get into, like building the business. But with my wife, I walked her through everything. The first deal took forever for her to be, sign off or be okay with it. The second deal, a little less, down to further on. Eventually, it got to be the point where she saw it working so well. I remember specifically coming home one day and said, hey, honey, I just bought 3 single family homes and duplex. And she's all, okay, good. And then I didn't have to tell her beforehand because she knows it's a business model. And this is something that so to start, I always now tell everybody what we do as investors. Now, we invest in properties, we're investors, but what we are also business owners. That's what we need to do. And I'll tell you the wrong way, how I got started, which was the wrong way, but I'll tell you this wrong way, immediately forget it, because you'll understand. This is how quote unquote gurus tell you to do it. So I was watching, it was like in 2006 when I first started investing, and I was watching late night infomercial that said, hey, it's like 2 a.m. Hey, we're coming to your town. We're going to teach you how to invest for this 2-hour free seminar. I was like, really? Okay. And I went to that 2 hour seminar. all hype, all sales pitch. And they say, now run to the back. It's normally $50,000, but it's on sale for $1,000 today. I'm like, okay. And I ran back. That was all. I bought it. 2-day seminar, more hype for more sales pitches for more like a $50,000 course, a $60,000. It's just more money. And I realized, well, I don't have the money, number one. So let me take what they taught me and see if I can implement it. So this is the wrong way. I'll quickly tell it to you. You'll forget it. I'll give you the right way. The wrong way is what I did. I did this way, and my property manager started stealing from me in 6 months. It was bad. But I realized there was a right way to do it. I just needed to figure it out. Remember, I'm business-minded, entrepreneurial, so I figured it out. But here's the wrong way. They said, find a property anywhere in the country and you run the numbers. That means calculate your expenses, make sure your income's over that. And they say you want to make sure that you're making $50 in passive income, but you also get appreciation, which you'll love, which I'll pause this and say, I don't invest for appreciation. This is generational wealth. I will literally give these properties to my kids. So appreciation, that's great, but I don't count on that. I count on the cash flow. So find an area of the country to invest, run the numbers, make $50 a month in passive income, and then also you get appreciation. Then they say, spend thousands of dollars to buy the property, then spend even more thousands of dollars to fix up the property, and then find a tenant to rent the property, and then find a property manager. Well, in my opinion, that's just about backwards. I've also seen so many people do this, like I did myself, and they try to call, hey, property manager, I have this property. Would you manage the property? And they might say, and they have said this, no, I'm not going to manage that property because I'll get shot if I go over there. So meaning it's a bad area. So no longer is it an asset providing you money and income. It's a liability. And so how much better is it if you do it the right way? And here's the right way. Remember, that was the wrong way. Don't do that because I did it and I started losing money. The right way, I figured out because I'm entrepreneurial. I said, there's got to be a right way. Let me approach this as a business mindset. So this is what I always tell everybody. We build the business first. When we invest in real estate, we build the business because our business is what runs it. That's how I was able to scale my business so fast. In like 6 years, I had enough properties, 30 plus properties to quit my job because I was scaling the business. Now, this is what building the business looks like as an example. If you're going to start a convenience store, candy bars and soda machines and all that good stuff, well, you're not going to sign a lease on a location and open the doors and set a box of candy bars in there on the ground. No, you're not going to do that. You go out of business in 2 seconds. But what you would do is you would build the business first. You get the gondolas. Those are shelving units that all the candy bars go on, the countertops, cold storage, fountain machines, bank accounts, cash registers, employees, insurance, everything in the business before you buy any inventory. Same thing with real estate investing. We build the entire business first so that it runs itself. And then we buy a piece of property and we put that into our business as inventory. Our properties, the gurus will tell you, you buy one property, that property is your business. No. We own businesses that business has inventory, and that inventory is our properties. That's how we scale it, because once you have the business built, everybody working in the business for you, and remember, these are experts. These are people that live in that city, because we invest all over the country. I invest in Ohio, Texas, and Arizona. My students literally all over the country as well. But we hire the experts. Those are the ones that are going to run your business, make sure you're doing it right. Because the last part I'll say is, if you did what the gurus say and eventually try to find a property manager and they say that I'm not going to manage the property, how about before you buy the property, before you're in thousands and thousands of dollars in debt and all this money to fix it up, you call up, hey, property manager, I'm looking at buying this property, number 1 Happy Street, just give you an example, random example. This number 1 Happy Street, I'm looking to buy it. What are your thoughts about it? How much will it rent for? What type of clientele would it be? What is the vacancy factor? And will you manage it? If they start with, well, no, I'm not going to manage the property, it's a bad area. Better knowing that now before you bought the property than after you bought the property. So The big thing is we build the business first. Everybody in the business to work in the business so that we don't have to work, but it runs itself. We give them the systems, procedures, and processes to run our business. Now, last thing I'll say is a lot of people have heard of the book, The 4-Hour Work Week. Well, it's a good book and all, but I think working 4 hours a week is for suckers. I don't want to work 4 hours a week. I don't want to work 4 hours a month. I maybe work 30 minutes a month on all my properties, just getting up the property management statements, looking, is everything look good? Good. Set aside and go back to play with my kids. So that's building a business. So we have the business owning the inventory, running itself. Does that all make sense?
It does. So let me ask a more nuanced point with building the business. Is that just by nature of, okay, great, I'm investing in Columbus, Ohio, and I know who my property manager is going to be. I know who my landscape person is going to be. Is that the business part that is being built out?
Correct. So it starts there. Now, a lot of people, we're finding this city that has good inventory. So if we're going to start step by step, we don't just pick a city. We find a good city that has good inventory, lots of properties that people either want to buy or rent. Now, particularly, I personally like cookie cutter type homes. 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,200 to 1,500 square foot, maybe 1,600 square feet. Not too small, people don't want to live in. Not too big that you have extra toilets, extra walls to paint, and extra everything. But these are properties that families want to live in. Their kids live in or go to school in the neighborhood. Their the parents work in the neighborhood. But we build it, and we start with inventory. As soon as we find a good city that has enough inventory that would make us want to build the business, because there's a lot more work to go through, we find the right property manager. We don't go right to realtors. In fact, my students, they say, hey, Dustin, I found this great city. I've already got also 5 realtors sending me deals. I'm like, whoa, stop. That's like the last step. Realtors are great, don't get me wrong, but that's the last step. How are you going to manage these properties? Like, well, I don't know. And I said, well, this is what we do. Inventory first. Then the next step is property managers. Who's going to manage the property? It'd be just like if you just hired anybody, it'd be just like you starting a convenience store and you grab somebody off the street, say, hey, can you manage my business, manage my business, manage my money, manage my customers, manage my inventory, manage my employees, manage everything. And you haven't even interviewed them. So what we do is we interview property managers, many property managers, to make sure we run the business. The next step, once you have the property manager, well, you need finances to buy it. So we find mortgage brokers, we find hard money lenders, we find local banks. We can maybe get secured line of credit. We get private money lenders. We find commercial loans. There's so many different ways to get financing, but then we start building the means to purchase the property. My suggestion after that is to find a couple different ones. Inspectors, home inspectors are vital. You do not buy a property unless you get a home inspection. I'll tell you that. Find insurance agents, because we need to know what our fixed costs are. Our mortgage is going to be a fixed cost, relatively fixed, because it's 30-year fixed. Taxes are relatively fixed. Your insurance is relatively fixed and stuff like that. Now, here's the great thing about all these expenses, though. I'll quickly jump to. I don't pay my taxes on any of my properties. I don't pay my mortgage. I don't pay my property manager. I don't pay for repairs. I don't pay for any of that stuff. My tenants pay for all of that. Now, it so happens the money goes into me and then back out to all these bills. But I don't have to get a job to hire this property manager, because I get the question, Dustin, how do you afford a property manager? I said, I don't. I don't buy the property unless I can build the business that those expenses of a property manager, rehab, contractors, like repairs, all that stuff is already in before I buy the property. I don't buy the property unless that's all kicked in. So with that, we build the business, property managers, financing, mortgage brokers, and all that good stuff. Then I like to also find handymen on top of insurance and inspectors. Handymen are fantastic. Like if you find plumbers and electricians, they're expensive, but if you find a handyman who could do both at a lesser price, that's a great way to go. So there's so many other things, but that's the bulk of it. We have to make sure it's managed, and we can buy those properties before we can even find any realtors or wholesalers are going to find you deals.
Love it. Oh gosh. I don't know if you're realizing this, conscious investor, but this is a lot of very powerful information. And I appreciate it so much. So let's just go down that rabbit hole a little bit further. Let's go into the financing part, because I think that right there, somebody's listening. Hey, I'm the sole provider for my family. We live comfortably. I'm not going to change, they're just feeling that they don't have that extra. So they're wondering like, okay, well, how can I finance, and how can I finance multiple properties?
It's not as hard as you think. And what most people, and I did the same thing, when you don't know what's out there, usually you think, okay, how do I buy an investment property? Well, if I bought a house before, I found a mortgage broker and a realtor, and then maybe I just need to add a property manager and put them all together and buy a property. Well, that's just one way, especially financing. A mortgage broker is just one of many ways. In fact, I remember correctly, 14 different ways. I have 14 different ways that I've literally done myself to buy properties. I created a YouTube video that literally lists out the 14 different ways. I'll give you just a number of them. It's going to take a while to go into each one, but what I'll say is, broad overview. Obviously, you can buy with cash. That's one, very simple. But you could also do a refinance, pull that cash out to buy the next property. That's how I scaled my business. Took about $15,000, recycled that over and over and over and over again until I had many more properties. But with that, you could do commercial loans, which obviously your investors, your audience absolutely knows about commercial loans. Bundle loans, bundle properties together to get more money to buy more properties. Portfolio loans, that's like a local bank, just literally from their own personal money that they're lending out rather than sending it out. FHA loans are fantastic. House hacking is another way where you buy a duplex where you have another one. FHA loans are great. If you have a VA loan, is great. I love hard money as well. Private money, friends and family members. Hard money might seem a little kind of scary, but it's really not that bad. I could show you how to do all that stuff. But this is just a number of many different ways. I've even give you two more. A signature loan. You go into a local bank. Hey, bank, I want to get an unsecured line of credit, just like a credit card, just on my credit. They'll say, okay, here you go. It's kind of expensive, but remember, I'm not paying for insurance and taxes and interest. My tenants are. As long as I have a business that can make money from this it's paid for, then I'm going to get it. But here's the last one. Last one I'll just give you. I've even bought properties with a credit card advanced. Like, no joke, I did. And the reason why is because my business paid for it. And I knew that this house, I was buying it because we're investors. We buy it for less than it's worth. It's called equity capture. I was buying it for so much less than it was worth that it made such great sense to utilize the credit card because I didn't have any other money. It was definitely one that was like, okay, I need, here's it works out. Boom. It worked out great. So there's so many ways to do it. Getting one mortgage is just one way to do it because people might say, well, I've heard you can only have 4 loans on your name. Well, most banks, that's what they say. They like 4, but IRS is 10. So if you have you and your spouse, then that's 20. You can actually, what it really comes down to, we as investors and entrepreneurs, we're problem solvers. If the problem is you don't have enough money to buy the property, you don't have enough financing, figure it out. You keep calling enough people, enough banks, you're going to eventually figure out. Last thing I'll say is I had one student, they needed a specific criteria for buying a purchase of a home. It was where the minimum loan would be $30,000. For your investors, like $30,000, there's houses for $30,000. Yes, there are. Midwest is fantastic down in the Floridas and the Carolinas, but the minimum needed to be $30,000 because she was buying it for $48,000. The down payment was below 50. Most banks are 50,000. Some are even 100,000. I said, don't give up. Keep calling more banks. No joke. The 23rd bank that she called finally said, yes, we loan, like the minimum is $30,000. She bought the property for $48,000 and whatever that, 20% of that, what is that? Like $9,000, $10,000 at most. And with that, she's making, I want to say it was like $350 a month in passive income. So there are great properties out there that we can buy that we make money in passive income.
Dang. I bet you're excited about all of that, conscious investor.
Well, let me add this too with passive income. This is how I quit my job. This is how I love the term successfully unemployed. And I love that you sport the successfully unemployed t-shirt as well. And so how I became successfully unemployed is I asked my wife, hey, honey, how much money do we make every single month? Or how much money do we need to make every single month to cover our expenses? Like basically, what are our expenses? And I remember the number specifically. It was $4,200. Mortgage, taxes, all that sort of stuff, and food. And I said, okay, well, let me think. I buy properties that make me a minimum of $250 a month. Well, that's $3,000 a year. Well, that's a lot of money. Okay, that's great when you multiply it out. But what if I got 10 properties at $250 a month? That's $2,500 a month in passive income, not working. That's $30,000 a year. 20 properties is $5,000 a month, $60,000 a year in passive income. And I just realized all I got to do is just scale it up. And that's because I started a business. All I had to do was buy the next property and put it into the business. And that's how I scaled it to quit my job.
I love it. It's absolutely inspirational. And I know that because people are looking for, they're looking for solutions right now. And a lot of, I've heard the fear out there. I've heard you, conscious investor, the nerves about where the economy's headed and such. And this is, a huge reason why I wanted to have you on here speaking, even though it's different than the normal topic, because, as a podcaster, it's important that we bring solutions to you.
Can I share with you that I'm very, very excited? I'm not nervous. I'm actually excited about where the economy is going. I can't say this enough. In fact, people ask me, well, Dustin, interest rates are going up. Aren't you concerned? I'm like, I've been waiting for this. I'm so excited for interest rates to go up because what happens is a number of things, but a big one is the buyer pool just starts. There's not enough people to buy the property. So there's more properties. Prices of homes come down. And remember, I don't pay interest. My tenants pay that. So as long as I have it in the system or in the expenses, then I'm great. But with that, I remember so I started investing in 2006, and 2008, the crash happened. 2009, 10, 11, I didn't have enough money to buy it. I was buying as many properties as I could. And I thought to myself, this is possibly going to happen again in the future. Sooner or later, it will happen.
We've been waiting for it.
Exactly.
The Hollies have been waiting. We're like, oh, this is our moment.
This is it. And here's the big thing. So you're listening, you conscious investor, you're listening to Julie right now. And as you're listening to this, you're thinking, well, either I need to get started, or my goodness, like I might wait. Don't do that. Don't wait. Here's what reason why I say don't wait. If you're going to go surfing, you need to paddle before the wave gets here so that you can get your momentum so you can actually go. And you don't want to wait to paddle after the wave gets you. You're not going to catch up to that wave. It's going to pass you. So what does that look like when being a conscious investor? It's getting educated. It's understanding the business model, whichever one, and Julie was 100% right. Multifamily is fantastic. Syndication is fantastic. Buy and hold's great. Airbnb, storage units, even mobile homes, not the mobile home itself, but like mobile home parks. There's so many different ways to invest, and there's so many experts out there to do all these types of investing. You just got to get around them, but educate yourself. Understand the business model, start getting experience so that you are ready to move into it. Start having the right people in place so that when you can capitalize it, when it's the best time, and you will know when it's the best time, it's when everybody is screaming, never buy real estate ever again. It's horrible. Yes. All the news cycle. I remember in 2010, everybody was talking, do not buy real estate. I'm like, well, if nobody's buying real estate, that means I better be buying real estate.
That's right. That's right. And that's the biggest message right there. I love the analogy of catching the wave and surfing, because it's absolutely true. And honestly, you and I've both heard it where people are, oh, I'm nervous about the economy, and they're pulling back, even though a year ago they'd be like, I can't wait till, prices soften and this XYZ happens. And it's like, don't you see this is a time? So here's another element I'm going to throw in there with the interest rates and everything shifting. And that is that, hey, if interest rates are rising and prices aren't totally tanking right now, but if the interest rates continue to rise, the buying power continues to shift as well. And so waiting for quote bottom to happen is like, well, if interest rates continue to go up, however that works, you're going to run into some turbulence. So it's like, buy now, buy right. When you buy right, you can buy in every single market cycle and be successful.
With that, I started buying in 2006, and through 2008, saw so many people, like almost everybody, went bankrupt because they were buying for appreciation. Remember, I said, we don't have to buy for appreciation.
Never.
If the market goes up, if the market goes down, or if the market goes sideways, I still make money in passive income. In fact, all those properties that made me $250 a month in minimum, they're now making me $500, $600, $700, $800 a month in passive income because rents just go up. That's why I love buy and hold. Now, I love syndications as well, but I also want to own multifamily and own it permanently so I can give those to my kids as well. And so there's so many great ways to invest in real estate, but if you do it right, there are right ways and wrong ways to do every single type of investing. You're going to be protected when there's a downturn. Like I said, I'm excited. And a lot of people are saying, well, should I wait when it's a bottom? Well, here's the thought. When is the best time to plant a tree? Well, it was 20 years ago. The next best time is literally today. And so same thing with real estate investing. You don't want to be saying, man, I was listening to Julie's awesome podcast and I knew I should have invested 20 years ago when I was listening to it 20 years ago, but I didn't. You don't want to be looking back at yourself 20 years from now saying, I wish I would have listened to Julie and started investing. No, do it now, because if there is a way, in fact, I'll tell you right now, I have a student community of all my students and we all talk and help each other out. Well, on Monday, which was 3 days ago, one of my students said, hey, Dustin, I am buying 2 properties right now. We're closing at the same date. It just happened to work out that we're closing on the same day. And with that, we're going to be making like $300 a month in passive income from each property. So even right now, when the market's still high, we're still making money. As long as you know how to do it, you're going to be totally fine. And getting around great people like Julie who know what they're doing so that you can learn from them, learn from their mistakes. I've made plenty of mistakes. That's why I am able to make my business right, is because all the mistakes I made, I ripped it out of my business. All the good things, I kept it in my business. Yep. And now I just try to share it as many people as possible.
I love it. Golly, Dustin, I'm so grateful to, for the opportunity to share space with you, to feature you, and just to share you with the conscious investor community. And as we wrap up, I'd love to know best ways for people to connect up with you. They're inspired, they're intrigued, because this is the Hollies. It's like Steve and I, we're all about real estate. And you heard me say earlier, it's like, I'm all about apartment investing. I'm all about syndication and that model because I understand it inside and out. And I know the advantages of it. Steve is a single family. He's a small residential, and that's his space and his zone of genius. You don't have to choose one. And I believe in being diversified,
Totally.
right? So you can have these multiple income streams. Like you could be in a ground up development in a syndication that's not going to pay anything out for a couple of years, but it's going to have a huge boom at the end. That's just going to be exceptional. Right. And so you want to just like look at what trees am I planting? Going back to the orchard. Okay, great. I can get some immediate cash flow right here and have properties I'm going to be passing down to my kids and my grandkids and such. And then I can also be invested in the syndication, which is going to provide some other tax benefits to me. And wow, if I'm an active investor, those tax benefits are going to benefit this business, and we can start cross-pollinating all of the real estate. Okay. So there is a beautiful larger play here at hand. And Dustin is, just absolutely primed and positioned to be able to educate you and support you if that's a path that you want to go down and pursue. So you want to make sure that you go and check. I'm going to do the plug for you. You want to make sure that you go and you check out, his course and his community, if that's something that you're interested in. And I'd encourage you, one, just like Steve and I, one of you might feel more inclined to go one direction. It doesn't mean that you only have to go one direction. And so
I do have, if you don't mind, I can absolutely I'll give everybody a free course, like literally showing you everything, how to do this every step of the way. Do you mind if I share that with everybody?
No, of course. Awesome. I conscious investor. Should I say no? I think that I would lose all of my listeners.
Well, I want to just share this with you. In fact, my new goal in life, my first goal was to quit my job when I was 37 years old. And I did that. Praise the Lord, check. Now my new goal is to help 1 million people to become financially independent by investing in real estate. And so I want to just give this out. So if you text the word rental, RENTAL, to 33777, rental to 33777, I'll give you my free course. Like literally show you how to build a business, find a country area in the country to invest anywhere, how to find the right properties, build the business, scale the business to quit your job, as well as you can go to masterpassiveincome.com/free course. All one word, masterpassiveincome.com/free course. But you can also find me. I do personally like Instagram, so I'm on there. You can connect with me on there. And I'm not that arrogant, but it's the only handle I can find. It's THE, the Dustin Heiner. So you can find me on there. But my podcast as well, a Master Passive Income podcast. It's really just a solo show. Just try to give out as much information as possible. I had you, Julie, on Successfully Unemployed as well. But honestly, you look anywhere for Dustin Heiner or Master Passive Income, you'll find me. I love to help out as many people, even in YouTube. Like I even my YouTube channel, just giving away all this content literally for free. Just like you, Julie. We're just trying to help as many people as we can, because our lives have been blessed and changed by this. And so it's so much better. In fact, I love it so much, helping people, that I created a conference called the Real Estate Wealth Builders Conference. And it's a conference not like those ones that say, run to the back and give us lots of money. No, it's the opposite of that. In fact, what it is us as expert investors coming together. I have literally 35 speakers now. It's a blessing to have so many awesome speakers, but we come together for 3 days and help each other. It's not that we're building a conference, we're building a community. And I found the more people that I help in my life, the better my life gets, the better other people's life gets. So with the Real Estate Wealth Builders Conference, it's just another iteration of helping so many people invest in real estate.
So you need to be marking your calendars for this event. I've already been in my mind, it's mentally marked, and I need to put it on the calendar, but I already know it's going to be an exceptional event. I know some of the speakers that you've mentioned that when we've spoken in the past, and it's going to be a fantastic event. So this is a great ecosystem, because it's not just one form of investing. And it's not just one way of doing things. And for a lot of you trying to get started, trying to take that next step, trying to scale into something, like to fulfill your vision, this is that opportunity for you to have more exposure to more people. And remember, I met Dustin because I had an introduction from my friend Lindsay, who had him on her podcast, right? So you don't know who you're going to meet when you go into an environment like that, and how that's going to change and impact your journey. So you want to make sure to put yourself in those positions so that you can catch the wave. Wow, I'm just like wrapping it all up here, aren't I?
You're nutshelling very well. Good job.
Dustin, thank you so much for all you contribute to the world. And your podcasts are just absolutely phenomenal. And I just greatly appreciate that and appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Julie. I appreciate you too. Thank you. I appreciate it.
And you amazing conscious investor, thank you so much for taking time to listen. I know that this was inspiring you. I know it was different content, and it's good. We want to break free from some of our thinking, because stepping into a little different zone helps us see where, our sandbox looks a little bit different. And so that's really important. So take all of this information to heart, process it, talk about it with your friends and family, and share the episode so that you can be part of that chain of supporting other people. Until next time, live big, love bigger. Feeling alone, disconnected? Conscious investors often feel alone or disconnected because of their unique perspective and desire to expand their thinking. But the journey of a lifetime isn't meant to be solo or forged by grit alone. Join the Conscious Investor community on Facebook, link arms, exchange ideas, and expand your thinking on finances, relationship, and community. Join the Conscious Investor group on Facebook today.